Okay, so it's mid-October, right? And you know what that means.
Oh, yeah. The warnings start popping up.
Exactly. Every year, like clockwork, the news reports, the police PSAs.
Check the candy.
Yeah, watch out for tampering, be careful. That whole routine, it's like this annual Halloween fear ritual.
It really is. And it's fascinating because it plugs right into these really deep-seated fears we have, doesn't it? Protecting kids, the idea of, hidden dangers in the community.
Absolutely. So today we're doing a deep dive into this whole candy curse. We've been digging into the sources, especially one called Halloween candy poisoning, a misinformation myth.
Right. And our mission really is to unpack this specific folklore. How did it start? How has it changed, especially over the last, 40-plus years?
And does the panic actually match the data? That's the big question.
Yeah. Are the headlines telling the true story? Or is something else going on?
We're trying to find the real monster here. Is it the stranger lurking with poison candy, or is it maybe the misinformation itself that just sticks?
Because fear definitely sells. It grabs attention much more than boring facts sometimes.
That's for sure.
And looking at how this story shifted, from the classic razor blade in the apple to today's THC gummy scares, it tells us a lot about how panic spreads.
Okay, let's get into it then. And the place to start has to be the core finding from the research, because honestly, it's pretty shocking when you first hear it.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's a sociologist, Joel Best, who's been tracking this stuff. He calls it Halloween sadism since way back in the 80s.
Right, digging through decades of police reports, news archives, hospital records, everything.
And what did he find? After all that searching for the poisoned candy from a stranger.
A huge, resounding zero.
0. That's the number. Our
Wow.
sources all confirm it. Best, other researchers. They found 0 verified cases in the U.S. Let me repeat that. 0 verified cases of a stranger intentionally poisoning or seriously harming a child with trick-or-treat candy.
It just sounds wrong, doesn't it? Given how deeply ingrained this fear is. I mean, we all grew up with it. Surely there was something, one case that started it all.
Well, that's the twist. The panic didn't start from verified stranger cases. It grew out of a couple of really unfortunate incidents, some hoaxes, and, honestly, tragedy involving family.
Not strangers.
No. Every single story that got big, the ones that cemented the myth, they always turned out to be something else. A hoax by the kid themselves sometimes, or a terrible prank gone wrong.
Or much darker, involving a parent or relative.
Exactly. Which is obviously horrific, but it's not the random, anonymous threat that the folklore warns us about.
Okay, so let's trace it back. Where did the whispers even begin? We're talking before razor blades were the main fear, right? Like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, way back. There was this incident in 1959, California. A dentist.
To dentists, okay.
Yeah, a dentist decided it would be funny, I guess, to hand out laxative candies.
Oh, lovely.
Right. A truly terrible idea. A horrible prank. Caused some kids to get sick. Understandably upsetting.
Yeah.
But it was a known person doing something stupid. Not anonymous poisoning.
Okay, so that plants a seed, maybe. That candy could be messed with.
Kind of. And then it gets a bit darker in 1964 on Long Island.
What happened there?
A woman, a mother, was caught giving out things like ant poison buttons and steel wool pads.
Seriously, ant poison.
Yeah, but critically, the sources say they were clearly labeled. It was bizarre, dangerous behavior, absolutely. But again, it wasn't some hidden threat. It was a specific person acting erratically, and the items were identifiable, not hidden poison.
Still, these incidents, they start building a narrative, right? Treats aren't automatically safe.
Exactly. They lay the groundwork.
Yeah.
But the one incident that truly cemented this whole thing in the national psyche, the one everyone sort of vaguely points back to, even if they don't know the details,
Yeah.
that's Texas 1974.
The Ronald O'Brien case.
That's the one. The absolute cornerstone of the myth, and just deeply tragic.
Tell us what happened there, because this is crucial.
Ronald O'Brien murdered his own 8-year-old son, Timothy. He laced Pixie Stix candy with cyanide.
His own son.
Yes, and he'd given poison candy to his daughter and 3 other children, too. Though, thankfully, they didn't need it.
Why? What was the motive?
Life insurance. He'd taken out policies on his kids not long before Halloween. It was cold, calculated murder for money.
Okay, so the most infamous case, the one that really terrified parents everywhere.
Had absolutely nothing to do with a random stranger. It was filicide. A father killed his son.
But that's not how the story got told, is it?
Not at all. The media, the public conversation, it immediately latched onto the candy aspect. It morphed into this generalized warning about Halloween treats from anyone, anywhere.
The horror of what actually happened was almost too much, so the fear got projected outward, onto the stranger.
Precisely. The narrative needed an external monster. It's easier to fear the unknown person at the door than to confront the possibility of danger coming from within the family or community. That horrific act became the symbol for a threat that wasn't actually there.
Wow. So the foundation of this decades-long panic, it's built on hoaxes, pranks, and one absolutely devastating murder by a parent, twisted into a story about strangers.
That's the origin. No strangers, no Halloween sadists in the way we imagine them.
Okay, so that's the original myth established. But like all good folklore, it didn't just stay static, did it? It adapted. Let's jump forward. How did this fear mutate for the 21st century?
Right, because the razor blade thing started to feel a bit dated, maybe? The myth needed a modern update, and it found the perfect one with cannabis legalization.
Enter Halloweed.
Exactly. You see states starting to legalize recreational cannabis, Colorado in 2014 being a big one, and suddenly there's a whole new potential threat vector, edibles.
THC-infused gummies, chocolates, candies that look just like the real thing.
Perfect fodder for the panic machine. The old fear of tampering just got a new, potent ingredient.
And law enforcement and the media played a huge role here, didn't they, with those PSAs?
Oh, absolutely. Those "can you spot the pot" campaigns became infamous. Police departments would show pictures side by side of regular candy and THC edibles.
And visually, sometimes they do look incredibly similar.
They do. And that visual proof was incredibly powerful. It made the threat feel immediate and real, even if the underlying premise was flawed.
What was the premise they were pushing?
The implication was always that some malicious stranger, presumably would intentionally buy these expensive edibles and just hand them out randomly to children on Halloween.
Which, when you think about it logically...
Makes very little sense, right? Edibles aren't cheap. Why would someone spend that money just to randomly dose kids?
Yeah.
But the fear wasn't about logic. It was about the possibility, however remote.
And the media just amplified this like crazy.
Instantly. It was a much sexier story than still no verified cases of candy poisoning. You know, pot candy threatens Halloween.
Yeah.
That gets clicks. That gets viewers.
So the narrative seamlessly shifted from razor blades and poison to THC, keeping the core elements. The innocent child, the dangerous treat, the lurking stranger.
Correct. But, and this is the crucial point we have to keep hammering home, despite this new wave of fear, this new Halloween panic.
Let me guess. Still 0 verified cases.
You got it. All the searching, all the warnings, not one single confirmed instance of a stranger intentionally giving a cannabis edible to a trick-or-treater anywhere in the U.S.
It's all preemptive warnings based on what if.
Entirely. Based on potential confusion, not actual malicious distribution during trick-or-treating.
Although the confusion part is a genuine issue, right? The source material mentioned lawsuits and FTC actions against companies making edibles that mimic famous candy brands.
Yes, that's definitely real. Companies making Stoner Patch dummies instead of Sour Patch Kids, or packaging that looks almost identical to Skittles or Nerds. That's a legitimate problem, especially for accidental ingestion at home.
Right, we'll get to that. But that visual similarity fuels the Halloween panic, even if it's misplaced.
It provides the evidence. It makes the warning seem credible. Look, they say, see how easy it would be.
Was there any incident that got reported, even if it didn't fit the stranger mold perfectly? I think the sources mentioned one case.
Yeah, there was one case that got a ton of press in 2022 up in Winnipeg, Canada. Some edibles reportedly got mixed in with Halloween candy there.
Okay, Winnipeg, not the U.S., but still.
Exactly. It was an isolated incident. Details were a bit murky initially, I think. But the fact that one case outside the U.S. made international headlines.
It just shows how starved the narrative is for any kind of validation.
Precisely. It fed the perception of a widespread danger, even though it stood completely alone against decades of non-events in the context of stranger danger. It's that cinematic fear again.
Okay, so stranger danger via candy, whether poison or pot, is basically a myth based on the data. But that doesn't mean there's no risks associated with edibles and kids, right? This is where the story takes a really important turn.
This is the gut punch, really, because the data tells us where the actual danger lies. And it's not on the neighbor's doorstep on October 31st.
Where is it then?
It's inside the house. The sources are incredibly clear on this. Almost all pediatric cannabis ingestions, the ones sending kids to the ER, they happen at home.
Usually involving toddlers, right? Finding something they shouldn't.
Exactly. Little kids finding gummies or chocolates left out. And the numbers, they're staggering.
Give us the statistic.
Okay, get this. Between 2017 and 2021, ER visits for cannabis ingestion among young children, mostly under 5, went up 1,375%.
That's huge. And completely reframes where the real public health concern should be.
So we're spending all this energy year after year warning about a zero-incident threat from strangers.
While a very real, rapidly growing danger exists from accidental ingestion within the home environment, often involving products left unsecured by parents or guardians. It's a tragedy of access, not malice from strangers. A toddler finds brightly colored candy left on a coffee table or a nightstand.
Precisely. It's about safe storage, 247, 365 days a year, not about inspecting the Halloween bucket one night a year.
The real risk is mundane, it's domestic, it's about vigilance at home.
Yeah. The sources argue pretty convincingly that the focus is totally misplaced. We should worry more about the unlocked drawer than the doorbell.
Which leads to the big why. If the facts are this clear, if the actual danger is at home, why does the stranger danger Halloween myth persist so stubbornly? Why do we keep hearing the same warnings?
Because the myth is a better story. It's more cinematic.
Cinematic? How so?
Think about it. You've got a clear villain.
Yeah.
The shadowy stranger. You've got innocent victims, the children. You've got a specific dramatic event, Halloween night. And you've got a simple, actionable solution. Check the candy. It feels controllable.
Okay, I see that. It externalizes the fear, makes it something out there.
Exactly. Facing the reality that the risk is often due to oversight or carelessness at home is much less comfortable. It implies a different kind of responsibility, a constant, less dramatic vigilance. That's harder work psychologically.
Whereas fearing the stranger is easier. It allows us to perform a ritual, checking candy, and feel like we've dealt with the threat.
Right. It taps into our cognitive biases. We prefer clear narratives, identifiable threats, and simple solutions. The spectacular, scary story, even if false, often wins out over the mundane, complicated truth. Fear is just more compelling than statistics sometimes.
So the practical takeaway here, the moral of this deep dive, what should listeners actually do with this information come Halloween?
Well, one source put it perfectly, I thought. Something like, check your candy if it makes you feel better, but the only thing truly haunting Halloween these past 40 years is bad journalism and misplaced anxiety.
Ouch, but fair, based on the data.
Yeah. The real focus should be on that safe storage at home. That's where the proven escalating risk lies. Secure your edibles, secure your medications. That's the effective preventative measure.
Fear the driveway accidents more than the doormat candy.
Statistically,
Yeah.
absolutely. Or fear the unsecured gummy bears on the kitchen counter.
Okay, let's wrap this up. The key takeaway from our deep dive. After decades of looking, the evidence is overwhelming. The Halloween candy threat from strangers is a myth, originally born from tragedy and misdirection, now kept alive by anxieties around cannabis.
The real documented risk concerning edibles in children is almost entirely about accidental ingestion at home, usually by toddlers, due to unsecured products. The danger is proximate, not anonymous.
The Halloweed panic is sensationalism trumping statistics, a preference for that cinematic monster over boring reality.
Which leaves us with a really provocative question for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. If this specific fear, Halloween candy poisoning, something that seems so concrete and verifiable, if it can persist for decades with virtually zero supporting evidence, just powered by folklore and media cycles, what does that tell us about other fears, other narratives we accept? Think about politics, health scares, technology panics. How many other cinematic monsters are we letting shape our views and actions simply because the story feels right, even when the facts point elsewhere?
That is definitely something to think about. How good are we, really, at letting go of a scary story when the evidence tells us to?
A question for our times, maybe.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the candy curse that, it turns out, never really was.